Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Don't Touch the Beard, in which I video, document and then talk nonsense over the top of Guild Ball games. I'll be using Morticians against my friend John, who is using Masons down at Darkshire Games in London. John has elected to go with Honour and Marbles as his captain and mascot, whereas I've gone with Scalpel and Dirge. His first pick is Harmony, and mine as Ghast. Then follows up with Tower, me with Graves, Mallet for John, Brain Pan and Memory. After a little bit of deliberation, John elects to go with Flint, and similarly I round up my lineup with Casket. Now this is not the official organised play way of selecting teams, but it worked for us today and we'll look at doing it properly in the future. If you're curious, the models and the mat are provided by Steamforge Games. The tokens that both John and I are using are provided by Muse on Minis, as are the widgets that I'm using. The widgets and the measuring sticks that John's using are from Art of War Studios. You'll notice there is a scoreboard at the top of the screen, which I picked up from eBay. There is a plot card holder that I picked up from bendyboards.co.uk. That's bendyboards.co.uk. There you go, Mike, plugged it. And there's a dice tray, which I've completely forgotten where I got it from, but it's super handy because it folds up and packs in the bag. So, looking at this, I've sped the footage up quite considerably, a la Vincent Kirchhoff. His videos run the length, which if you haven't seen, I can highly recommend them because they're very, very useful. So I've entirely stolen his editing style, but whereas he is an experienced tournament player, I haven't got a clue. But hopefully this will give me a little bit of insight in how to move things forward. So looking at how things deployed up, I've been very careful here to ensure that Casket is at least 3 inches away from all friendly models, apart from Graves, purely because he creates rough ground and I don't want to be slowed down. I've kicked off with Ghast, who's moved forward and with his 1-6 kick, it's been surprisingly accurate and has booted it into cover, which I'm very, very pleased with. We then move into allocation. John settles on 4 with Honour, none on Marbles, 2 on Mallet, 2 on Tower, 2 on Flint, and 2 on Hammer. Hammer? Who's Hammer? Harmony. Clearly I mean Harmony. Anyway, I go with 3 on Scalpel, 1 on Dirge, 2 on Ghast, 3 on Casket, 2 on Brainpan, and none on Graves to start with. So John gets us underway with Flint, who sprints out to collect the ball and then immediately tries to pass back to Mallet. So outside of the football legend aura, but still successfully makes the pass, generating a point of momentum. Mallet then dodges forward 4 inches. John forgets to spend the point of momentum, but we won't hold it against him this time. I activate Graves, mainly to just shuffle him about and to dodge Memory forward a couple of inches. Let's see how many times I forget that and during the course of this game. John then activates Tower, tooling up Honour, making her a tool, takes a stroll forward and puts down his Defend the Ground AoE effect, meaning that friendly models don't have to spend momentum to take defensive stance actions whilst charged. Very nice. I then activate Ghast, remembering to push Memory 2 inches, going well for remembering that so far. And then pay the 2 on Ghast to charge into Flint, 9 dice on the charge, but I roll awfully but still managed to get the 2 net hits that was what I was looking for, double pushing Flint closer towards my lines. John then activates Mallet, who passes the ball using his own football legend aura down to Harmony, which is an entirely successful pass. Harmony then makes a 4-inch dodge forwards after deciding that Mallet doesn't want anything to do with Ghast. John again forgets to pay the momentum. I activate Scalpel, dodging Memory forward 2 inches and play the wingback card so I can charge for 1 influence, but I have messed up Ghast positioning so I don't get any crowded out. I do, however, still have 11 dice. 12 would have been nicer. And with being a lady and anatomical precision, I care nothing for Flint's defences and get a very nice 8 hits for a momentous 3 push and 1 for 4 damage. I buy another attack, just 7 dice this time, and get enough for a momentous 2 damage and a dodge. Buy a third attack and get 6 hits, which is enough for a momentous 3 damage and a dodge, leaving Flint on 5 wounds. Regret not giving Scalpel more influence on this first turn because it could probably taken him out. I then spend a point of momentum on her heroic player natural stamina to second wind myself for free and to jog away at the end of my activation, but with no parting blow from Flint. There now follows the most important thing we say all day during our game. Genius, insightful tactics there, I'm sure you'll agree. Oh, yeah, and then Marbles activates and moves for 6. Activate Casket, and on some kind of roll, remember to do Memory as well. Casket sprints forwards for 7, and then burns 2 influence, throwing down 2 Ghastly Visage AoE counters in an attempt to block the inevitable Mason advance into the centre of the pitch. So the tooled up Honor makes a quick time dodge and then charges into Casket, pretty much ignoring his rough ground, just through maths. You know, there's plenty of movement to be able to get in, and just starts to waylay on the poor fellow with a coffin on his back. I spend a point of momentum to defensive stance to improve his meagre defences. So on 10 dice, John gets 6 net hits versus my 4-1 and elects to knock Casket down. Solid choice, can't fault it. John then makes a linked activation to Harmony through Honor. And after lots of pre-measuring, spread the footage up a little bit on this one just to move things along, he sprints into the Defend the Ground Aura, dodges using Acrobatic, and then prepares to hit poor Casket. So thanks to the family rule, and because Harmony is within the Aura for Honor, she can use Honor's tack rather than her own meagre 3. So with the crowd out, that's tack 7 versus my defensive 2-1 as I'm knocked down, resulting in 4 net hits for momentous 2 damage, which was reduced by 1 by Tough Hide. Harmony then dodges round Casket, taking the ball with her. I in turn activate Dirge, forgetting to push Memory, and Dirge just flies into the melee. John is out of models, so I then activate Brain Pan, remembering to push Memory forward this time, and charge into Harmony, which I shouldn't have been able to do. Sorry, John, forgot entirely about the rough ground aura around my own Casket. So Brain Pan's normal attack of 3 becomes 7 because of the charge, and then 8 because of the crowd out from Dirge. I get 4 net hits, allowing me to wrap my playbook, so I take a double dodge and a momentous tackle. Thanks for noticing. I then spend 2 momentum to clear conditions on Casket, standing him up, which I don't think I needed to do. But there we go, at the end of turn 1. So neither of us have any momentum for initiative. I roll a 5, John gets a 6. John elects to go first, and I gain a point of momentum for my troubles. So moving into turn 2, I'm pretty happy with the positioning. I've retrieved the ball, and I think I'm beginning to get control of the centre of the pitch. John allocates 6 to Honor, none to Marbles, 1 to Mallet, 2 to Tower, 3 to Harmony, and none to Flint, as he's not looking particularly in a good place. Scalpel only gets 2. Again, I allocate on Scalpel. Dirge gets 1, Gas gets 3, Casket gets 4, and Brain Pan gets 1, whereas Graves continues doing nothing. So at the top of turn 2, John activates Tower, and mindful of the foul odor around Casket, makes use of some very, very accurate movement widgets from Frozen Forge over in Norway, although you can buy them now in the UK from bendyboards.co.uk. That's bendyboards.co.uk. He moves Tower around into melee range with Brain Pan. So that's tack 5 from Tower against Brain Pan's 4-1, 2 net hits and a momentous tackle to get the ball back. I in turn activate Dirge, forgetting to push Memory yet again, and Dirge hits out at Harmony for attack of 3 versus 5-0, for getting 2 net hits and a momentous singled out, so friendly models will get +2 tack when attacking Harmony. More of that later. John then thinks about activating Marbles and moving him in towards Casket, which I think in hindsight would have been the wiser activation, as he's going to take 2 activations to get there, might as well start using the ablative ones. But what he does do is activate Mallet, and making use of his 3-inch engagement during his activation is start moving in towards Casket. I now know what Mallet is doing for the turn and don't have to worry about him. Where there is going with Marbles means I would have continued to have to think about it. So that's tack 5 versus Casket's 3-1 for 2 net hits, resulting in a momentous singled out on Casket. So again, any Mason's player attacking Casket will get +2 tack. We then have a long chat about blacksmiths and John's fears about change. Whereas I welcome our new blacksmith overlords. I then activate Casket, and remembering to push Memory the 2 inches and buy some attacks. So with singled out and crowding out, that is 9 tack versus Harmony's 5-0 from Casket for 3 net hits, allow me to knock her down. Second attack still on 9 tack, but now versus 4-0 as Harmony is knocked over, so that gets me 6 net hits, allowing me to do 3 damage, double push, and 1 damage as I've wrapped my playbook. My third attack is exactly the same as the second one with exactly the same results, so Harmony is looking very worse for wear. At this point, I make my single biggest mistake of the game. Now, like many people, when using a new guild or faction or crew or whatever, I did some research online, and one of the things it said was that Casket legendary play never comes up. I saw it time and time again, and this really goes to prove: never read the comments, never believe what you read on forums. Play models for yourself, learn your own cards, find out your own way, because not declaring Casket time massively changes the outcome of this game. So there we are, last attack, same as the other ones, 3 damage, double push, and 1 damage, which takes out Harmony. So it is 2 VPs to the Masons, 0 at this point, so I am ahead, but I have now realised my mistake. Try and convince myself I might get an opportunity to use it again, but I think that was the magic Christmas moment of perfect alignment. So although I'm ahead, I'm a little bit annoyed, as you can probably tell, that I didn't get to use that play. Back over at the non-grumpy end of the table, John elects to activate Marbles and spends a point of momentum to glide, ignoring the rough ground that Casket has set up, and moves into proximity. I activate Ghast and push memory 2 inches. I roll terribly with my first attack with Ghast, doing a single point of damage. And with my second attack, it's exactly the same result, netting me just 1 solitary point of damage, only done 2 so far. And with his last attack, I only get a momentous knockdown. Awful rolling from Ghast. And by Ghast, I of course mean me. In his activation, John then stands Flint up. I then activate Scalpel, charging Flint after nudging Memory round a little bit more. Hope not to have to do this, but there we go. So Scalpel does 9 net hits. It's for a momentous 3 damage push and 1 regular damage. We both misinterpret Tough Hide on this on the Brace for Impact, so we called this a takeout on Flint, but yep, going forward, both of us had a look at the rules and familiarised ourselves with how that works properly. So 4-0 to the Morticians then halfway through turn 2. I then spend a point of momentum to Unnatural Stamina and second wind away with Scalpel, bringing it to tower. John then activates Honour, as that's the only one he has left, and he prepares to start wailing on poor old Casket. Harmony's 9 tack versus 3s and 1s gets 6 net hits, so that's 4 damage, plus 1 for Marbles, minus 1 for Tough Hide. Harmony's second attack, the dice aren't quite as good, so only 4 net hits, so it's 3 damage plus 1 from Marbles, and again that's all reduced by Tough Hide. Slightly better from Harmony's third attack with 5 net hits, but the same damage result, that 3 plus 1 minus 1 effectively. Much nastier attack from Harmony as the maths begins to average out for a total of 5 damage, but again reduced by Tough Hide. With only 3 wounds left on Casket, John's dice abandon him and he only gets 2 net hits for a momentous 2 double dodge. With her last influence, Harmony does momentous 3 damage, triggering Casket's reanimate, so he somehow survives the onslaught. Somewhat stunned that I've lived, I then activate Brain Pan, remembering to dodge memory forward, and Brain Pan then buys an attack on tower. With all the bonuses, I'm on tack 5 versus 3s and 2s, which is enough for a momentous tackle. I then activate Graves, dodging memory forward, and moving Graves into contact with Harmony, and spending 2 momentum to heal up 4 damage on Casket, bringing him to 7 wounds. Despite being down on momentum, I win initiative 6 to 5 and elect to go first, giving John a point of momentum. A super janky Brain Pan and Memory goal occurs to me at this stage, so I allocate 4 to Brain Pan and Memory, 4 to Graves, who's now nicely obscured by those trees, 1 to Casket and 2 to Scalpel, again under allocating on Scalpel I think. John in turn then brings Flint and Harmony back on from his deployment zone edge behind the goal, allocating them 1 influence each. He then gives 6 to Honour, none to Marbles, and then 2 each to Mallet and Tower. Right then, watch how many mistakes I make here. So I activate Brain Pan, dodging memory forward, and then make a pass on 1 less dice due to Tower, only needing the 1 success and getting it. At this stage, the cold hard reality of the mistakes I've made become very apparent to me, and what could have been an absolutely glorious first activation goal is now not going to be, and I try desperately to salvage the situation. So after making the pass, I dodge Brain Pan forward 4 inches. I buy a dodge off memory to bring him into engagement with Mallet. So with the crowding out from Brain Pan, that is 6 attack versus 3s and 2s for 3 net hits, which is enough for a momentous double dodge. Gutted that my janky goal has failed, I attempt to pass the ball into space and hope it scatters to Scalpel or Ghast. Reality, I kick it straight to Mallet, which is probably a good thing, because in editing this I realised I didn't have the influence to do this. Sorry, John. So John activates Mallet and considers passing the ball to Harmony, but realises due to the engagement zones and the lack of line of sight, so that'd be far too difficult. Equally, that if you pass the ball to Tower, he'd be doing it on no dice due to the crowding outs both on target and on him. So in the end, he elects to just punch Brain Pan in the face. I declare a counter-attack with Brain Pan, and Mallet swings his Mallet, doing 2 net hits, getting a momentous push, entirely negating that counter-attack. Mallet then makes an absolute beauty of a pass, spending a point of momentum for bonus time to get an extra dice. And Tower dodges forward 4 inches, bearing down on the Mortician's goal, all looking very dangerous, and has completely changed the centre of the pitch. So Scalpel demonstrating why she's captain of the team. She activates memory dodges 2 inches forward, just outside of tap-in range of the Mason's goal, and then Scalpel jogs up to engage Tower and buys an attack. Attack 7 versus 3s and 2 gets me 2 net hits, which is just enough for a tackle. Scalpel gets a little stab happy now. The bloodlust is up, and I bury a knife in Tower, getting 3 net hits, which is enough for a momentous 1 damage push dodge. So I push Tower away from me, Scalpel further away from Tower. I then use that point of momentum to buy unnatural stamina. I then play Heroic Landing plot card, gaining that momentum back again. Put second wind on myself, and at the end of my activation, jog to the relative safety and cold embrace of Ghast's company. Tower activates, and after a great deal of deliberation, uses his plot card to extend the range of a character player as long as he doesn't activate, and puts Tooled Up on Honour. He then ever so calmly wanders up to Graves and hits him in the face with his hammer. So that's Tower's attack 5 against Graves' 4 and 1 defense. So that is 2 net hits for a momentous push, and Tower pushes him slightly out of view from the camera behind those trees. I activate Graves, dodging memory closer to the Mason's goal, so that he's now within tap-in range, and I move Graves within Tower's engagement and now also engaging Harmony. So I'll buy an attack with Graves. He's attack 6, -1 for Tower, +1 for Casket, although we forget the -1 for the cover. That is only enough hits to do 1 point of damage and bleed. So Harmony counter-attacks for free, with attack 7 against 4-1 is enough for a push dodge. So he pushes Graves away from her and moves to the side of Casket. The newly nudged Graves then buys an attack on Tower, doing enough only for 1 point of damage and bleed. Graves' next attack is slightly more successful, doing 2 momentous damage. Tower then does a counter-attack on Graves, doing a momentous 2 damage. At the end of the attack, Tower then pushes Graves outside of Honour's engagement zone. Graves then buys a final attack on Tower and does nothing whatsoever, so he then spends 2 momentum to heal Casket. Honour then activates, and John prepares to wind up the Honour Marbles pain train on poor old Casket. Honour's first attack is enough to do 3 momentous damage, +1 for Marbles, -1 for Tough Hide. Despite some awful rolling and only getting 2 net hits, that is still momentous 4 damage thanks to Tooled Up and Marble, and that is then again reduced by Tough Hide. A much better dice roll this time, but the damage curve for the Masons kicks in, and with 5 net hits, Harmony does 5 damage in total, then reduced down by Tough Hide. On her 4th attack, Harmony's dice spike beautifully, enough for 6 net hits, which is momentous 1. Double dodge, +1 for Tooled Up, +1 for Marbles, -1 for Tough Hide, ultimately results in Reanimate being triggered for Casket. Harmony buys another attack, and with 4 net hits, that is a momentous 2 damage. +1 for Tooled Up, +1 for Marbles, -1 for Tough Hide. That is enough to take out the poor beleaguered Casket from the game. And with that, the Masons are on the board with 2 VPs. So that is 4-2 to Morticians currently, but the Masons are beginning to claw it back. Harmony then advances on Graves, and with her last influence, buys an attack. Harmony's dice then spike again for 5 net hits, but again the damage curve of the Masons kicks in, and we're looking at 4 damage on poor old Graves. Harmony then spends a point of momentum to clear bleed. I then activate Dirge, causing Memory to do the Memory Dance, which is a lot like the Salt Shuffle, but sounds like this.
Memory, it's happened to me.
Cheers, John. Dirge then flies into the melee with Harmony, Tower, and Graves. Flint activates and makes his way towards Memory and buys an attack, which results in 2 net hits for a momentous push dodge. With my last activation of the round, I move Ghast towards Mallet, entirely forgetting to do the Memory Dance again. I blame John's singing. I'm sure you do too. Harmony activates and is not within the aura for Honour's attack, surprisingly, looking at the board, and moves up to Memory to start punching him. So attack 4 and 5s and 0s means only 1 net hit, so 1 point of damage, but it is enough to trigger back to the shadow, so because she's done damage in her attack, she can then dodge 4 inches away, which John does, moving her just outside of Memory's engagement zone. So at the end of the turn 3, we're looking at 4-2 to Mortician still, and then Tower bleeds for 3 damage. So with the Masons on +5 to their initiative roll for turn 4, it is hardly a surprise that the Masons win and elect to go first. Turn 4, John allocates 4 to Honour, 4 to Mallet, 2 to Tower, and 2 to Harmony, with nothing on either Marbles or Flint. I've worked out that those trees were blocking the line of sight from the camera to the Harmony Tower Graves Dirge matchup, so I've moved those and just put down some 2D terrain. Boo, 2D terrain, boo. I then bring Casket back on, giving him 1 influence. No influence on Dirge, no influence on Graves. Brainpan gets 3, Ghast gets 2, and Scalpel gets 5. First activation of turn 4, Mallet activates and charges Scalpel, staying outside of her engagement zone, so I cannot counter-attack, but I spend a point of momentum to defensive stance instead. So Mallet's on attack 8 due to the crowd out from Ghast, and because of the defensive stance I am 5s and 1, and the dice are not kind and causes both to make this noise. Resulting in absolutely nothing from Mallet. Undeterred, Mallet buys another attack, and this time does a momentous tackle on Scalpel, robbing the ball away. With his newly robbed ball, Mallet then kicks the ball into space and it scatters directly onto Tower, ruining another glorious plan for a goal that I had. Oh, that put me in a grump. Anyway, I activate Brainpan and Memory does the Memory Dance. I will then buy an attack on Marbles with Brainpan. Attack 3 against 4 and 1, I'm aiming for a dodge and get nothing. Marbles counter-attacks, getting 1 net hit for 1 damage. Realising I'm not going to get the dodge that I want, I just wander away from Marbles with Brainpan towards Tower and the ball, giving the monkey a parting blow at +2 tack. Marbles hits with everything, of course he does, why would he not? So that's a 2 + 1 damage on the wrap onto Brainpan. So Brainpan's on tack 5 with assistance from those around him, which is enough for 2 net hits, which gets me momentous tackle. Tackle. With the ball safely back in my possession, Brainpan will then kick it to space as he is slightly out of range of Ghast. So whilst it won't generate me a point of momentum, with the scatter it goes directly to Ghast. If this game has taught me anything, it's, remember Casket's legendary play, but if it's taught me anything else, it's that passing to space can be just as valuable as passing to a player. Honour activates and buys an attack on Graves. Her first attack gets 2 net hits, doing 1 momentous damage and a double dodge. Her second attack gets 5 net hits, doing 3 damage. Graves definitely looking a little worse for wear now. John spends a point of momentum to bonus time his third attack, but the dice are even crueler than before, causing us both to make this noise.
Ooh. Nothing. No, nothing, bagel.
I'm not even going to bother putting the little thing across the bottom, because you can clearly see how badly that went. Finally, with 6 dice against 4s and 1, Harmony nets 4 net hits, doing 3 points of damage to Graves, leaving him on 1 hit. He survives another round, or at least this bit. Harmony then triggers her legendary play, giving herself 1 additional influence, giving Tower an additional influence, and of course she buys an extra attack, netting 2 hits, which is enough for 1 momentous damage double dodge, which of course sees through to Graves, getting another point of momentum and a further 2 victory points to the Masons, making it 4-all in turn 4. Harmony then activates, as Honour's just been, as a linked activation. There's no range on it apparently. Very nice. Well, for John. Harmony then goes to charge Ghast, but Can't, because he's not used fear, so that would cost her 3 influence. So instead she walks up and buys an attack for 2. So with just attack 4 against 3s and 1s, Harmony gets 1 net hit and still manages a momentous tackle. So I activate Scalpel, performing the memory dance to get him away from Flint and into tap-in range. Move Scalpel forward and buy an attack on Harmony. So attack 8 with Ghast's assistance, only enough for 2 net hits, but that is enough to get me the ball back from Harmony. I buy another attack on Harmony, and this time is enough for a momentous 1 push dodge. More attacks on Harmony, I say. This time 3 net hits again for the momentous 1 push dodge. This time I will push away, leaving Harmony's engagement zone. With my last influence, I buy a pass to memory. Absolute belter of a pass. I then spend 2 momentum to make a snapshot with memory, so needing 2 successes. Normally that'd be 4s, but because I'm within 4 inches and therefore tap in range, that is 3s, and memory hammers it into the goalpost for the Masons. Elated by my own success, I then do something proper stupid in that I play Knee Slider, my plot card, which allows my striker that just scored a goal to push his movement. Memory doesn't have a movement, so he goes nowhere. Equally, John then plays the plot card Who Are Ya?, allowing him bonus attack against that target. And, well, frankly, if you want to start attacking memory, you're more than welcome to. So both of us kind of spoon the post-goal celebration there. So with the score now at 8-4, John kicks the ball out, landing pretty much just centre field and off down towards the bottom of the pitch, and then elects to activate Marbles first. Marble jogs forward, snapping the ball to as he goes, and then hides behind the 2D terrain woodland, and John starts threatening a Marbles goal. Not really being able to do much about Marbles with the ball at this stage, I activate Ghast, remembering to perform the memory dance and then buy an attack. It's not a great showing from Ghast, as I only get 1 net hit, so that's 1 point of damage on Harmony. Second attack, much better showing, with 3 6s, resulting in 2 points of damage and a knockdown, which is enough to take Harmony out and remove her from the board. That is another takeout for the Morticians. Had I remembered Casket's legendary play, that would be the end of the game. Tower activates next and starts by casting Tool Up on himself. So Tower hits Brain Pan with 5 attack, getting 2 net hits, which is enough for 2 damage, and then because of Tower's rules, he can then perform a push dodge, moving them all outside of Dirge's melee range. Free of Dirge's melee range, Tower buys another attack on Brain Pan, spending a point of momentum for bonus time. So for 6 attack, getting 3 net hits with momentous 2 damage, leaving Brain Pan on 6 wounds. He then spends a point of momentum to heal up 4 wounds on Tower. So with my last activation of the turn, I activate Casket and trundle forward, trying to make a nuisance of myself toward Marble's path to goal. And then I throw down a Ghastly Visage on Tower and Honour, largely because I can. Flint activates and jogs away from memory, and I entirely fail to notice that I could have taken a parting blow like some kind of idiot. So at the end of turn 4, I have 2 momentum and John has none. We both roll a 1 for our initiative, and I elect to go first in turn 5. At this point, we both realise that memory should have had that parting blow, so John very kindly lets me take it now. So that was the attack 5 on memory is 3 net hits versus the 3s and 1 of Flint, which is enough for 2 damage. So as we head into turn 5, I allocate 6 to Scalpel, although I'm rather dismayed to realise she's out of sprint range of Flint. I put 3 on Ghast, 1 on Casket and 1 on Graves. John in turn puts 5 on Honour, 2 on Marbles, 2 on Mallet, 3 on Tower and none on Flint and Harmony. I go with Scalpel first and sprint for 1 influence towards Flint, who is now on 5 wounds, and I activate her legendary play Voodoo Strings, pulling Flint into 3 inches directly towards her, so into base-to-base contact. So thanks to anatomical precision, Scalpel is against 3s and 0s. With attack 7 I net 5 hits, which is enough for 2 momentous damage, and Flint declares a counter-attack. So attack 4 versus Scalpel's 4s and 1s. I know that John is aiming for 2 successes to get that which way did they go, and he gets a... So he only gets the 1 net hit, so that's just 1 point of damage. Scalpel buys another attack with Flint on 1 wound, so with 7 attack I get 7 net hits, and that is enough for 3 momentous damage taking out Flint. So my inaugural game with the Morticians ends in 12-4, just as my inaugural episode of Don't Touch the Beard comes to a close. Seamless. Big thanks to John, my opponent, and to Darks for the game where it was played. Just to go through the various other folk that I mentioned during the course of this video, the mat. The game is of course produced by Steamforged Miniatures. The little plot card holder I use is from bendyboards.co.uk. Both John and I used Muse on mini counters and AoE effects. John also used Art of War distance stick things. I also use Frozen Forge steppers for accurate movement of miniatures on base that take into account width of base. Great little things from Norway, although as mentioned before you can now get these from bendyboards.co.uk as well. The eBay user I bought the schoolboard from was a chap called Rabtablaza, who was very, very helpful and very receptive to feedback when I made some suggestions, even going so far as to send me a whole bunch of new stuff for free. And if you've not seen it already, I can highly recommend Vincent Kirchhoff's Run the Length, as I have entirely stolen his editing style. If you've got any comments, please do leave them below. I'd be very interested to read them, or just to know that anyone has even watched this. I will endeavour to do another one of these soon, and if you haven't had enough of the sound of my own voice, you can listen to me and 3 other idiots on High Fidelity, a podcast dedicated to the best and worst models within Malifaux, a different game produced by Weird Miniatures. Thanks very much.